All right. Well, 162 games have been played as the Mets end the regular season with 101 wins, the second best win total in franchise history. But it wasn't enough to take the NL East, where we got swept out of Atlanta earlier this week, which knocks us down to the number 4 seed to play the Padres tomorrow night at Citi Field for the wild card round. So today, we are going to go over the recent news as per usual. We're going to go over our annual recap of the regular season. We're going to talk about the playoffs. We've got much more. There is way too much to talk about to waste any more time. So welcome to Mets Weekly, presented by Empire Sports Media.
On 3-2, Vader. Swings and misses, strike 3. He struck him out. 5 big pitchers combined for the second no-hitter in New York Mets history.
Okay, I'll let these guys say what they need to say at the beginning and get anything off their mind, off the top of their head. Andrew, I'll start with you.
Yeah, again, second best most wins in franchise history, but yet still wasn't good enough. Still in second place, still to the Braves. But again, great season. Bunch of stuff happened. A lot of things that, comebacks against Philadelphia, a no-hitter against Philadelphia. We do a lot of good things against Philadelphia. But again, a lot of wins. We'll break it down. Positives, negatives. You can be negative, even though as positive as this was, there was definitely a letdown. But you're still in the playoffs, unlike 2019, which all this good stuff happened in 2019, but they didn't make the playoffs. So, everyone loves 2019. Everyone's still saying 2019 is better than this year. So, got to have fun at least.
2019 was great. Let's not forget how amazing our entire pitching staff was behind Jacob deGrom, right? And we had a fantastic catcher. The fact that we had a lot of great center fielders with Nimmo out that year, that was a good year as well. But yeah, Frank, how do you feel off the top of your head? How do you feel about the state of this team?
It's good to be back in the playoffs and have it not be a one-game wild card, because have we won the wild card in a couple of years, like if it was a couple of years ago format, we just be worried about the one-game haul. But at least this time you're in the format of a series, which is something that should benefit the Mets with their starting rotation that they have. Didn't benefit them over the weekend, but on paper, that's how it's supposed to go. This is what they signed these guys for. This was their whole plan all along. So we'll see if it comes to fruition. I'm very curious to see, we talk so much about, does the regular season matchups really give you an implication of what the playoff matchups are going to be like? Because we saw the Mets struggle against Darvish. We even saw him struggle against Blake Snell to an extent. I know they worked up his pitch count. That's typical Blake Snell. He'll give you 5 innings, 1 million base runners, and 1 run on 100 pitches. So, that's kind of the whole Blake Snell experience. But we'll see, playoffs, will it be a different story? I sure hope so, because we'd really hate to go out in the first round after winning 101 games and having, like Andrew said, second most in franchise history. So now it just comes to a matter of capitalizing. You made it this far, but now this is what we all play for. Everybody's records, and forget the 101 wins. Everybody's 0-0 right now. It's a brand new season, so they just got to do what they did earlier in the season. The starting pitchers, the guys we pay the most money for, have got to do what we know they're capable of, holding teams to a very low run total, working deep into games so we don't need a lot of the bullpen, and then just work pitch counts, take advantage of other teams' bullpens. Only need a few runs if these pitchers do what they're capable of, and you should be able to win just about any game that those guys pitch. So it sounds easy. We've seen the execution not be as easy, but they really have a good chance.
All right. Well, before we go into everything right now, I want to set a reminder that me and this rhino-looking fuck in the top right corner will be going live tomorrow for a pregame and postgame coverage of every Mets playoff game here on the Mets Weekly YouTube channel. Make sure to put on those post notifications to never miss the live coverage before and after tomorrow's game, after game 2, game 3 if necessary, game 1 of the NLDS if that is necessary and happens if the Mets make it. So this is the place to be for the Mets postseason festivities. We're going to go all out for everything. So get ready for that. And as for a watch party, not in this lifetime. Let's start off with the Braves winning the NL East. Sucks that they both ended with 101 wins, and all we needed to do was just win one in the end in Atlanta, or maybe one game, one stupid game in Miami that we lost, or one stupid game in Pittsburgh that Taijuan Walker fucked up. But how do we feel about the Braves winning the NL East? It's a little disappointing. We were in first place for a long time, but they kept pace with us, and they finally made their move when we got there to Atlanta. So, Frank, I'll start with you. Did not win the NL East. Would have been nice, but how do you feel in general? I know you and me did a whole stream after we got swept by the Braves. So, anything else that you want to let out before we get into everything else?
If there's one thing I can get, I actually want to thank the Braves fans, because a lot of Brave fans said they subscribed in the comment section. So yeah, cool. By all means, I mean, I'll take the support anywhere I get it from, whether it's Met fans, Brave fans, you're not a fan of baseball at all. I don't really care. As long as you subscribe, you're watching, you're liking, that's all I can ask. So thank you very much to the Braves fans who, even though they beat us and they talked a lot of trash, they still supported the channel and they watched. So that's all I really could ask for. It's more money in my pocket, so to speak. So I really can't be too mad about that. But it's like you said, it's like, there's so many games you can go back to when it ends up being tied. I know the Braves weren't going all out the last game of the season, but still, it's like, you talk about the Cubs, National Ones, whatever. It's like there's so many games that you could just be like, oh, well, if they won this one, maybe they win the division. And that's why, like, when people say, oh, well, the games in April don't mean as much as the games in September. No, every game has the same amount of importance, because those games that if you won them in April, you wouldn't need to worry about as many in September. So, and it also just goes to show you, we talk so much about the September schedule. Oh, it'll be so easy. Those easy teams the Mets are going to face, the Oakland Athletics. Like, this would be no problem. They're going to have a really good month of September. But baseball does not work like that. Nothing is won on paper. Anything could happen in the sport of baseball. There's no clock. A lot of weird things can happen. You have umpires that they are very inconsistent. One day it's a strike, the next day it's not a strike. So it's just very different from other sports in those regards. So, and that's just baseball. It's very unpredictable. That's why this offseason, I want the Mets to, again, be more prepared for any scenarios, have better depth. If we know that DH could end up being an issue, if we know left-handed relief could be an issue, try to alleviate some of those concerns. Get as many quality, major league competent players as you can for your entire organization. You don't have to go star chasing, but just have a more complete team. I think that will help you in the long 162.
They did prepare, though. They had their emergencies there, and they had them. So we're fine. We're all prepared, but off-season aside, of course, that's a completely different topic. But even though there's tons of players that we just want to just toss out the window even before we play the playoff games. How do you feel, Andrew? You weren't a part of our ranting stream of crying over the Mets getting swept by the Braves. How do you feel about this whole situation?
Yeah, I was distracted. Let's just keep it at that. At that point. But yeah, I'm blaming Jacob deGrom, because that game in Oakland is the reason we lost the division. Because how do when you were gifted a 3-0 lead against the Oakland A's and upchuck that in the first inning, you're the reason we didn't win the NL East. Besides the point, yeah, it sucks. I mean, obviously they've had 5 straight NL East crowns. They did the same thing in the 90s. It's just these guys win the division. And like every time it seems the Mets seem to be good, they can't be. The rest of the NL East sucks. There's always that one pain in the ass. If it was the Phillies in 06 to 07, it's never 4 teams suck. Like we never can get the American League Central. We have one good team and everybody else sucks. It always has to be when the Mets are really good, the Phillies get really good, or the Braves get really good, or the Nationals get pretty good, like 2015 and 16. The Mets can never just catch that break, and the Braves have had this division by the balls for the last, seems like 40 years. And obviously, it would be nice, especially for the second straight year, over 100 days in first place, to not win the division. And we're breaking records. That's what the Mets do. We find new ways to break records that teams shouldn't be able to break, but yet the Mets find their way. Again, could this be a blessing in disguise, which I think obviously we're fighting? They get to sit. The only benefit for the Mets would have been to potentially have Starling Marte and obviously having the pitching setup. But you're sitting away for 5 days. The Braves didn't play great down the stretch besides the Mets series. Like, if you looked, they were human besides, I guess, when they played the Mets. Or, maybe that rest and sitting for 5 days could be a deficit. Same thing with the Dodgers to an extent. Who knows? And then maybe, because there's a world, the Cardinals beat the Braves and the Mets could beat the Dodgers, and, maybe not winning the division doesn't matter. Playing in the wild card series could benefit you. Keep your hitters in stride. You keep them ready to go at all times. So when you're ready for that Dodgers series, they've sat on their ass for 5 days. You've won a series at least 2 days beforehand. You at least your batters are ready to go. But who knows? But obviously, don't hang the banner unless this team goes to the NLCS. I don't want to see a wild card banner. I don't want that up at Citi Field because that's just, again, the division was yours. You let it get away. Braves played good, whatever. But again, it sucks. The Braves continue to low Mets, but we did win the Narcos battle, and that's the bigger battle here. So, I'll take that division title. We can reign that banner that we won the Narcos Bowl.
The Narco Bowl. All right. It lasted 3 pitches. But let's say one thing about the whole scenario of how there's always that one team that can be a pain in the ass when the Mets are good. It looked like at the beginning, when we had a 10.5 game lead, that was going to be the case. But what we all knew, I think everyone knew, this was not going to be an easy battle for the National League East. Because, well, the Braves last year, they did something called winning a World Series. And we knew that they were going to come in contention for the National League East. We held them off as long as we really could, but we faltered where we really needed it. And now you just move on. 101 wins. It's definitely something that you don't see every day, especially as a Mets fan. So, it's getting better compared to a lot of the years that we've had recently. But you know what? You have to have some disappointment. I guess that's still the Mets' nature, and that's just how it's going to be so far. But you know what? I think if they plug in a few of the missing pieces next year, maybe they'll be strong enough to hold off the Braves, and we'll see. But this definitely was a competition we weren't used to because we were so desperate to just play meaningful baseball in September for a long time, and we were. So we're getting there. It sucks. Is it unacceptable? Sure. But there's nothing you can do about it at this point. Does it suck that they're both at 101? You have to just win one game? Absolutely. But that's kind of just what I expect with this team. There's little inches of heartbreak that just pile on until you full on explode in the offseason. So moving on to some good news. Yesterday, there was a second baseman that was subbed in defensively, who won the National League batting title. Made me look like an idiot throughout the entire year, and then proceeded to have the best batting average in the National League in all of baseball, actually. Fantastic season for McNeil overall. I think he's just looked like McNeil, and that's something that's brought him to success. Frank, this was your guy forever and ever and always.
Yep.
Since he was born.
Yes.
How do you feel about McNeil winning the batting title? How does this, overall, how does it feel?
I'm very glad that he was able to do it because it was something that there were plenty of years where he was close, but then he wasn't ever quite able to finish it off. Like 2019 at the All-Star break, he was like right there in the running, and then he won that power surge. Batting average went down. He kind of fell out of the race. And I just felt that with the kind of skill set he has, he always had a chance of doing it, but you never really knew if he was ever going to actually be able to get one. And this time he got it, and it was a late push. He really closed the season on a very positive note. A lot of multi-hit games in the month of September. Freddie Freeman finally got a mini slump. It felt like Freeman never got into a slump the whole season. He had 0 for 10, 0 for 13, whatever that was. And that gave McNeil just a little bit of help that he needed to catch up and then eventually overtake Freddie Freeman and winning that batting title by 1 point. So it definitely, it could have gone either way, but I'm very glad he didn't do it. But besides the batting, just the all-around really good year. You know, Jeff McNeil, he's got that good WAR, which is something we like to see, a 6-win player. So for a guy that peaked, that definitely is something really good to see. And you know what? I hope this is not the first of multiple awards that McNeil wins this year. I think he should be in contention for a Gold Glove, whether that is at second base, whether that is as the utility guy. I think that he has the defensive numbers to pull it off. So I'm very proud he was able to do this, and hopefully he gets some more. I mean, you know what? He's got the All-Star. I'm wearing the McNeil All-Star jersey, so you know that's one good accolade to get out of the way. And you know, he's able to finish it off. Not just a good first half, but you know, good the entire season. Not like some of these other guys where we see just they had the one good month. McNeil showed a really nice example of consistency throughout the whole season. And then they talked about on the broadcast when they did the sub out and he gets the hug from Lindor. It's very different than the conversation we were having in the offseason during the lockout about you have to bring back Baez and trade McNeil because McNeil and Lindor will never get along ever again. So the fact that they were able to put that stuff to the side and turn into a great double play combo up the middle, it was all really good to see. Just a lot of good stuff, you know, with the middle infield and McNeil in particular.
This is off of just a raw count, and out of all the games that he started, he played 148 games this year. I'm only counting about 39 offer games, which is, I mean, you know, we're looking at Jeff McHit, so if he's getting a hit, he's getting a hit. So, you know, this guy's showing somewhat of a value in a huge majority of a season. He's probably the most, I don't know if he's the most confident I am of any hitter going into this postseason, because we've had rough stretches and we've seen the offense kind of just go. But like him and Nimmo, I'd say, are the top guys who I would consider being Nimmo and McNeil at the top of the order. Just kind of how it's just kind of fell out. I'd say that, like, I don't know if I'm basing it off of just the Atlanta series or whatever, but Jeff did show up for that series, and I don't think there was many other players that did. Eduardo Escobar was fine. You know, Vogelbach was okay. And then I'd say that Nimmo was like one good game and then one okay game and then one bad game. So McNeil was the only guy who showed up in that type of playoff atmosphere. So maybe that's something that, you know, you kind of feel confident of putting him in the 2-hole maybe, but that's a different discussion. Andrew,
he could bat anywhere, and he did bat, and that's the other thing too. He did it. I mean, how many different spots did he bat this year? He batted third, he batted fourth, he batted fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. I mean, he played, you know, all over, second, left, right. I mean, he played injured, like. And the other reason why McNeil won the batting title is this guy hustling out ground balls up 8 runs, you know, dying to get hits and diving headfirst into first base. Like, that's the kind of stuff you need to win a batting title. So his hustle, it's next level, maybe even to a fault in some instances and scenarios. It's like, okay, we don't really need to go all out here. Let's not get hurt. But he only knows one speed, and you know that's something I really admire about him.
Oh, I mean, overall, just showing his value, I'd say that like this entire season, he's played like he's in a contract year. Like that's what I'm seeing from him. Like he's trying to prove that the most value. He's played in the outfield. He's played in the infield. The only thing he hasn't done to show his value is probably play third base. That's pretty much all. Like from this entire, like he's done everything this year. Goes behind the season that Alonso has had. It goes behind Francisco Lindor's season, and it goes behind Starling Marte's season. Even guys like Nimmo, stuff like that, because of just, I mean, McNeil's had an incredible year. He really has. And he's really made me eat shit.
And
speaking of another
OAA.
guy to eat shit, what happened now?
And good OAA.
Oh, who cares? Another guy that he made eat shit. How do you feel about Jeff McNeil winning the batting title? Just the entire season he's had.
Well, I mean, he's not winning the Gold Glove because that goes to Tommy Edman. That's locked up in St. Louis. Gold, maybe a silver, maybe a Silver Slugger, but that gold is locked up in St. Louis.
Fact check. If we're going off minimum one game, Jeff McNeil has batted in every single order position. He's batted first. He's batted second, third, fourth, fifth.
When the
he
hell
batted
did he hit
ninth once, but
as
that was
a pinch hitter, maybe.
Ninth is a pinch hitter, but everything
Okay.
else he's had a
That
start
doesn't count.
in the
Okay.
1 through 8. So there you go.
Yeah. And don't forget, Marte was like, put me in one spot and keep me in one spot. Like, there are certain guys that I don't really like or can bat. Like, that's not something that everybody does. So he's just, we talk about like utility, but not just as in positional versatility, but just versatility in anything you needed is what McNeil did for this team.
Well, again, James McCann, by choice, he batted 9th. He's such a nice guy that he batted 9th by choice. How do you feel about McNeil, Andrew?
I mean, again, we're talking about batting average in 2022. Who cares? Who cares? Did have a good WAR though. 6 wins, pretty.
He had a great season. Just an overall.
Had a great season. Just a good season. Again, would I've still traded him for Luis Castillo? You bet your damn ass, especially how Castillo's pitching instead of Chris Bassett. Yeah, in the offseason. But they kept him. They let Javi walk, and guess what? He had a good year. Very good. Again, like had the good batting average. Again, he power numbers ducked to like. Did he even get the double-digit homers? Like 9?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm happy that it's at 9. I'm so happy it's at 9.
See, that's
and when he did hit a home run, it was no doubters. That's the thing.
That is, because he goes in those that first pitch, he's always just swinging a homer. And they don't make the adjustment.
I don't need that guy hitting home runs at all or trying to do it because when he's doing that, he's a fucking head case.
But that's the most content we get out of just seeing him cry. But yeah, again, he had a great year. Defensively, like you said, he's improved. He's proved to be a top 3 defensive second baseman. He's not even the best defensive second baseman on the team, but it's great. He'll be a nominee for the Gold Glove, and maybe he'll get a Wilson Award because I don't know if Edmund will qualify, but whatever. It was a good season, and you got to give him props. Again, had a great year. The Squirrel, again, seemed like they patched up with Lindor because that was the biggest thing. We didn't think, we were hoping that wouldn't come into this season. And then, like, if they were to start off slow, could that wound reopen? And thankfully it didn't. And again, you take it. Obviously, the power numbers went down. That's his best version. Can we please put some power hitters around him? That's a different discussion. But for Jeff by himself, back to being the 2019 McNeil, better, you got to take it what you get. 2-time All-Star. Going to win a Silver Slugger. He's better than Jazz Chisholm. I don't want to hear any of that debate. But
that's just racism.
That's not. Just look at the players. Dude has low swag. But yeah, they're good. Again, 2-time All-Star, Silver Slugger. Good job. Made us both look like dumbasses, but we do that on the daily. So are we really shocked?
Wiping evidence is something that I really I have a huge profession of doing. So. Might have to do that. There was one thing I wanted to say. Yeah, so about McNeil, then we'll move on. But we talked about how being the Jeff McNeil that he needs to be, being actual Jeff McNeil. We haven't seen a full season of him being Jeff McNeil. 2018, played half a season. A little bit less than half a season was his rookie year. 2019 had that whole power surge crap in 2019 that kind of fucked him up. 2020, not even a full season. In 2021, he was just not good at all. So it was good to see a full season of Jeff McNeil being Jeff McNeil, and look at that, he just won the batting title. So keep doing it, and then maybe we'll pay you a Ozzy Albies contract and steal money from you. So, other than that, let's get to one more piece of recent news, and then we'll get to recapping the entire season. Frank, wake up. It's time to not even dream anymore about him. He's here. Francisco Alvarez has arrived. And we saw a piss missile the other night. We saw a double. We saw him have 2 walks. Very, 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 very microscopic small sample, but we got him to the majors. He's here. Darren Ruff fucked off, hopefully forever. And Andrew, as the prospect guy, how do you feel about Francisco Alvarez for the future right now? Maybe him on the playoff roster. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, again, he showed you're starting to see what we saw in Syracuse and Binghamton throughout the minor leagues. He's not here to hit singles. He's going to come up here and hit the ball. When he hits it, it's going to go a long way. He's going to hit it hard, and it's going to go pretty far. And obviously, again, got a hanging slider against Carl Edwards. And again, a major league hitter should do what he did with that ball. And then obviously, he hits the double over the left fielder's head at like 109 miles an hour. But again, that first series in Atlanta was, you started to see, he saw a 20-year-old prospect getting called up in the biggest series of his career. There was at-bats where he looked overmatched. And then you go to look at the one against Dylan Lee, or a couple where you're like, he strikes out. But like you're starting to see, okay, 6-7 pitch ABs, and that's what you kind of want to see out of a young guy. Where you're like, yeah, would you love him to be Michael Harris and go out and hit 6 for 7 in that series and hit 3 homers? Yeah, that you're not going to see, especially for a guy jumping right into the big leagues, you're not going to get that. But you're starting to see, in that Washington series, yes, it's Washington, but you're starting to see what he is. A couple of walks, homers, doubles. You saw him play behind the plate. He didn't look terrible. Obviously that's the kind of the big thing with Alvarez is, can his defense, be average to above average and, stick there at the position. But and the Mets are just kind of using him as a bat, probably as a DH. But he looked good. He looked kind of like Francisco Alvarez, but nothing really to say. Is he going to be on the playoff roster? He should be. I don't care that Darren Ruff's got great numbers against Josh Hader and Yu Darvish and Blake Snell. I don't care. If you're taking between Ruff and Alvarez, you take Alvarez because he has a chance to actually make contact and hit them when he makes contact. The ball's going to go far. When you talk about Darren Ruff, it's going to go right to the second base.
Well, speaking of defense, if you want to talk about framing, he has about an average frame rate from last night. So why not? Nice. Frank, your dream's over. Wake the fuck up. What do you got?
It happened quicker than I expected. I didn't think we'd see him this year, but we did, and I'm thrilled because the first game against the Braves, where he was swinging and the bat was flying out of his hands, that told you all you need to know of if he was ready and if he was a little too nervous. Yeah, he was a bit too nervous if you're throwing the bat out of your hands twice in the same game. Unless you're O'Neal Cruz, that's not going to happen with usual players where they're just throwing the bat all over the place. And then you saw in the Washington series, no bats being thrown. He said, I forget, they saw on SNY that he said in the National Series, he took an approach, just, calming down a little bit, just kind of getting back into his game plan. He admitted he was too nervous in that Atlanta series. But against the Nationals, he looked a lot more. So drawing the walks, I think, is absolutely massive as a young player because they're trying to take advantage of you being a rookie. They know that Francisco Alvarez is taking some big swings. So they think, we can get him out his front foot, we'll just throw in the dirt. And for him to draw 2 walks in the same game as a rookie, only like a handful of games, that's a good sign, especially as young as he is. And then you saw the power that we know he has in him. I mean, we saw the 1,000,000 moonshots against Brooklyn. The power is there. It's all a matter of consistency. And the balls that he did hit, I mean, there's even the one against Atlanta. It was a barrel. That was a fly out to straightaway center field. The balls that he does make contact on are absolutely smoked. And you know what? The Nationals, they're not major league pitchers. But the thing is that what bothered me the most, the one thing that bothered me, was that the Mets had these struggles against these really bad teams. We talked about the Cubs, the Nationals, the Marlins. And if the Mets were going to call up Alvarez at some point in the season anyway, they should have done it in the beginning of September where he would have not been nervous, helped us beat these really bad teams that Darren Ruff was not helping us. And then when it came to the Atlanta series, he would have been so much more prepared and not as nervous. And you might have actually gotten a little bit of production out of him. So I just think we said the same thing with Vientos. If you were going to call them up anyway, just do it now. The more reps, the better when it comes to these young players, these rookies. They need those reps in the major leagues to really develop and become the players that we hope that they're capable of being. So great sign that he did well against the Nationals. And like Andrew said, I don't care what Darren Ruff did in his career because he's past that. He's past his prime. I care about what have you done. Like I always say, what have you done for me lately? What have you done for me as a Met? For Darren Ruff, I have nothing to be confident about. Francisco Alvarez hit more home runs than Darren Ruff and just overall better contact in one game than Ruff did in months. So that really should tell you all you need to know. And again, I think this will be good experience for him. You never know when you get to the postseason again. This kid is going to be a massive part of our future. Let him get the playoff experience now. This way, if you're a team that's perennial winner, you're in the playoffs every year, he's already got that under his belt. he's not worried next time around. So I would really hope that he does make this roster. I think there's a lot he could bring to the table. And also the other good thing is that the third catcher. So if let's just say Starling Marte does come back, if we want to pinch hit McCann late in the game, if we want to pinch hit Nito, even in the middle of the game, 5th inning, 6th inning, we could do that because we have our emergencies covered. We have a third catcher. So it just gives the Mets a little more versatility than they would with maybe a Terrence Gore on the bench. So I like that it also gives them that possibility because we know if there's anybody going to pitch in this line for, it's the catchers. I mean, that's who it is. So I like having that alternative as well on this team going forward.
I've been waiting so long, especially since the other catcher that they signed for 4 years. I basically put a timer on my phone. It's like, okay, well, let's keep going. How long is this going to take? 20 years old, very young. And the thing is that, we know that how much of a highly anticipated prospect he is. He's not a Beatty. He's not a Vientos. He's 5-star, like the top of the top, right? Beatty, 4.5 stars. He's pretty good. Francisco Alvarez, the top of the top, right? The Juan Sotos, the Bryce Harpers, the top type of potential, right?
Okay.
A young guy.
Number one in baseball.
Number one prospect
He was
in
number
baseball.
one, Andrew.
Again,
Time out.
the expectations. We're talking about expectations. We're not talking. We're talking about expectations, of course, right?
Okay.
So for him to show the light tower power, it was impressive. That's all I got to say.
There was a light tower.
More is going to be coming. More is going to come because he's so highly talented, right? We all know he's going to win MVP next year and the year after that and the year after that. But all I can say is that this is our high guy. Like, this was our main guy. We had our Beatties, our Mauricios, our Vientos, and our this or that. This is our number one, like, tier 1A prospect that we expected to make an impact and be our franchise catcher for a long time. So all I got to say is that I'm extremely excited. I don't think he's looked overmatched. I think he's been kind of just like, again, small sample. You don't know. But 14 plate appearances. I've been a hell of a lot excited to see this guy come to the plate than these two fucking pinheads that we have catching all year. All right? Go ahead. What's your debate that you have to throw at me?
No, it's not really points of what you guys have said, but I'm already seeing this because there's the former rightful number one overall prospect in baseball that plays catcher in Baltimore, and I'm already starting to see the comparisons and being like, "Whoa, we didn't get Adley." He's not Adley. Adley's better than him. So, like, as great as Alvarez is, Adley is better than Alvarez in every way. He does, but everything besides power. Alvarez has some power.
The only thing
that's
Adley
the only
has,
thing he has.
The only thing Adley has is his skin color. That's it. It's the only advantage he has. Alvarez is 20. He got brought up for the. Yeah. Again. Like, we'll see.
He's good. Yeah. Again, he's going to be great. He's just not Adley. And I'm already seeing people like, "Oh, we're not."
Well, the comparisons are going to be there.
Adley, exactly. He's not Adley. Like
the top. I can see it. Your top 5 catchers or whatever. With how weak that this generation of catchers have, we've had what? 3, you can say, elite catchers in the last 5 years. Your top what is it? Your top 5, you're gonna see Adley and Alvarez up there if they reach their ceiling. You know you're gonna see that.
I'm just making sure. Adley's better. Alvarez is great.
No.
So don't be
defensively. No, I don't think anybody's debating.
Adley plays in Baltimore. No one cares about that.
He'll be a Met anyway.
Okay?
He'll be
this
a Met
guy is in New York.
Yeah, but I agree with Carson. Said, like, Alvarez is gonna have more home runs. Other than that,
the power,
better in the other areas, but the power definitely leads Alvarez for sure.
So I'm just already seeing, like, Adley was always better. Like, there's not a shock that Adley came up and was better. Like, can we stop with this? It's not YouTube. I'm just already seeing it. I'm just
even don't forget when Adley got called
came up the first month, he sucked. Yeah,
start,
just like J-Rod, just like Witt. They all same thing with Albert. Yeah, so it's just
the Braves. The Braves were the anomaly in it. Most rookies don't come up that quick.
Don't come up and do what the Braves devil
especially at
magic
young
did.
age. Like they're
Yeah.
double A guys, just nuts, absolutely nuts.
And he has tons of time because you think about it, right? Let's say 4 years. We talk about the Mets 5 years from now. He's going to be 25 in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
25. So, yeah, he's young, and we're already seeing the display of talent. I want to see him unleash the cannon. That's what I want to see. Not a McCann like McDonald's, an actual cannon. I just want to see all the tools from this guy. 11th percentile in sprint speed, so we know he's not going to move. But yeah, I'm so excited for this guy, and I really hope that this is the ticket that sends James McCann to the funeral home. Andrew, you playing a video game right now? Okay. Well, I think I'm gonna save the rotation for the end, because that's more postseason stuff. Let's get to recapping the season. At the top, we know that we usually have our traditional questions. So, a player that played to your expectations this season. Andrew, I'll start with you. Someone you know that was going to be good, or someone you know was going to be bad, and you're like, okay, well, they were good or bad. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for not putting this in the group chat so as for us to get our answers correct. But I'll go with something I said on Mets Weekly in the preseason, that Lindor was going to have his Beltron second half. Yes, is he in the MVP conversation? No. But is he probably going to still finish by top 12? Most likely. And you got the Lindor you paid for. You got the guy that's going to give you the elite defense. He's going to give you, the power numbers came back. He even hit 270. He actually gave you some solid batting average. 71 to be exact, after that 3-run double. So you got every asset of what you paid for, the defense, the base running, the offensive production. And you're starting to see that's the guy that we said, he's going to have a Beltron here. Yes, did he hit 40 homers and he's going to win National League MVP? No, he's going to be in the conversation. So for me, it's got to be Lindor.
The confidence all year from Lindor has just been refreshing, especially just compared to last year. You exclude the first 2 months of last year. Lindor almost matched the production of 2018. Like, he was almost there, but we needed to see it in a full season for him to full on contribute to this lineup. Frank, who played to your expectation?
I would say McNeil, but he played even better than I thought. I didn't think defensively he'd be this good. Like, obviously McNeil was a perfectly fine defensive second base, but I didn't think he actually be in contention for a Gold Glove and have a really high defensive overall WAR, like 6-win player. I was always my favorite player, but I didn't think he'd be 6-win player. And listen, I always knew he was capable of batting title. There were people that they thought he wasn't good anymore, that he couldn't get back to being a guy that would hit for a high average. He was too focused on being a home run hitter. And he didn't have the temperament to get back to where he was. He just wasn't capable. It wasn't any good anymore. So I never thought that. I just thought that there was a combination of things as to why he struggled last year. I knew he'd be much more like the player he's been his whole career. And then he did it. So I was just very proud of him that he was able to get back to where he was.
I'm still putting him on the trade block, seeing what I'm getting for him. But, whatever. For me.
And again, it's like, who replaces him? I said it in the offseason, but still, like.
Javi was the guy to replace him.
Trey Turner. Sorry.
Trey Turner. That was another thing we could have done.
But
hey, we didn't want to mess up the chemistry. It's fine. I mean, the cop-out's James McCann, but I'll go with Pete Alonso because I knew that he needed to be the top guy, and he was the top guy. Tied with Judge for runs batted in this year, and having an MVP caliber type of season. Is he going to get it? No, but I'll expect, 6th, maybe 5th. We'll see, because team won 101 games. He had his rough stretches, but you know what? At the end of the day, when he's the top contributor, that's when this offense really gets going, and we're really hoping he does that tomorrow night and for game 2. And hopefully in the NLDS, maybe all the way to the World Series and be our top guy, because he's our only biggest power threat in that lineup. And hopefully we address that in the offseason. Let's go to someone who sucked dick. below your expectations. Frank, I'll start with you. Someone you expected to be good, but was not good, and they sucked absolute ass.
It wasn't. I expect this guy to be good, but I expect him to be better than he was, and that was Trevor May. I think last year we saw him have his struggles. Every now and then he give up the long ball, and we're like, oh, I mean, he's supposed to be a high leverage reliever. That's not what you want out of your guy. And he also didn't get hurt at all last year. Meanwhile, this year, you saw him battle some injuries and just overall inconsistencies, and just feels that like every time Trevor May comes into a game, even his scoreless outings feel stressful. Like there's at least a runner or two on. Every pitch is like 5 to 6 pitches. It's a 20 pitch inning, and it's like, oh my God, he escaped. And it's just every time he comes out there, it's just an anxiety attack. So I didn't expect him to be that bad. Like I thought, maybe he'd be a little better than he was last year, but if anything, I feel like he's even worse than he was last year. So he's somebody that's been a big disappointment. It's hard to be disappointed. Too many guys this year when they won 101 games. Like most of your players have to play well in order for them to do that. So of the few guys that were disappointing, I think Trevor May is one of them. But with the contract they gave him, he was disappointing to me.
Andrew, someone who played below your expectations.
Trevor May. Yeah. I'm gonna go. There's an obvious troll answer. I'm not gonna use it. I'm going to go with Drew Smith to an extent because we did see a lot in the first month and a half with the slider cutter turning into a slider. We're thinking, okay, maybe this is the 7th inning, especially when Lugo was, Drew Smith was being a consistent, great, high leverage guy. And then he just turned to absolute dog poop. And Pooh Smith was born, and the dude just sucked. And it was just home run. Again, kind of like Trevor May. You're never going into a Drew Smith outing without him giving up the fattest of news. So, obviously it's just kind of that situation where, like, again, you had confidence in him in April and halfway through the May, and then it just turned to Pooh Smith, and you're just like, dude, just send him to Korea with McCann already.
All right. Someone below my expectations, I'd say Edwin Diaz, because 3 blown saves. Didn't really like that. Kind of trying to match 2019 where he was awful. I can't wait until that dude leaves. But for real, Tyler McGill, the health, the kind of just not knowing what was really going on with him for most of the season. Still seeing a lot of hard contact problems. I want him to use his cutter more, but he doesn't want to use it. But as for that, when he came back from the bullpen, he didn't look right. He really did not look right at all. Like he did not. I've watched back quite a few outings of his, and I've talked about this a little bit, put it out on Twitter. I talked to you guys about this a few times. Like this dude's wincing after every pitch. Like he looks so like odd. Like he just did not look like himself at all. So maybe next year, come spring training, he'll have a better whatever, but I don't know how to feel about that. I went on the injury list. I don't know if it's COVID related or not because they did not say anything about like anything that. I don't know if he had COVID the whole time that he came back, but he just did not look right. I know everybody talking about, him being a budding ace and this and that and this. But what I can say is that he just did not look right. And he just did look like a shell of like every single piece of potential that we saw coming back from when he was a starter from going to a reliever. And I really thought that he would be able to succeed in that, but you really kind of need him throwing 99, 90, 98, 99, or, the high 90s. He was barely touching 96 when he came back as a reliever.
And with McGill, we found out that the reason why he threw so hard opening day was mostly adrenaline based. So,
yeah,
and then he wanted to go even higher, and we're like, I don't know if that's a good idea. And then he had an arm injury, and then he was compensating for that, changed his arm slot a little bit, his release point, probably not even realizing it, which led to another arm injury. So the fact that it's one thing to have an injury-plagued season, but as a pitcher, to have your pitching arm get hurt multiple times in different areas, that definitely was a really bad sign. So like you said, they're going to rest him, whatever, offseason, spring training, right into the rotation. This where his best value is going to be as a starting pitcher, not as a reliever. So he came up, and when he began,
when he began, he was primarily a reliever. Like that was his 2-pitch thing where
His
he had
brother's
this.
a reliever.
Yeah, his brother's a reliever. He
Yeah.
came up as a reliever. So you're like, okay, well, he has experience as doing it. He could possibly do that. But when he's not throwing, he's mid-90s. When he's not doing that, he's not,
You need a
nothing
wipeout
crafty.
pitch.
There wasn't anything
You
crafty
didn't have any
going on.
wipeout pitch. Your reliever,
He didn't have a wipeout
you gotta have a
pitch.
signature
True.
pitch. That was elite.
And I think he was trying to find that wipeout pitch, and he was missing a lot of spots. And then he also looked like he didn't look like the control, command, purity that he was able to have at the beginning of the season. So it was disappointing, I'd say. But I still have faith in the guy that he'll be a big part of this team, especially with a lot of pitchers going for free agency. But I think there's definitely going to have to be a retool in the whole concept. But we'll go to above expectations, I guess. There's some options where you can be specific because there's been a lot of good performers. I mean, when you win 101 games, there's a lot of good performers. Andrew, I'll go to you.
Yeah, again, one of the signings that I liked. I didn't think it would be. Oh my God, this is the best one of the best setup men in the league. It's Ottavino. I like the addition of bringing in Ottavino. The group chat wasn't as it's a walk problem, and the fact that one, he got rid of his walk problem, and two, he's been one of the most nastiest setup men in the league. He's been productive, minus a couple of 2 home runs that I think about, Miami and against the Phillies, which they won one of those games, where again, he really has just been unhittable to an extent, especially with the slider and him not walking people. He's not coming in with guys he's putting on. He's coming in, in messes made by Drew Smith or Lugo, and he's getting out of him pretty clean. And he's, been in big games. He's been getting the bridge to Edwin Diaz, and that's been the biggest key to this team is going from the starting pitcher to Diaz. He has been one of the best bridges, if not the best bridge, to get it to the elite closer. So for that fact alone, again, I like that signing in the offseason. Like, oh, good MLB to show card. He's going to be great. And he actually being one of the best relievers in the game definitely blew out of my expectations.
Frank, someone you were wrong about?
I'm gonna go with Mark Canha. My main critique was his OPS steadily going down, and that actually held up being true. His OPS still, was on the bit of a downwards climb from 2019, 2020. So that part is still correct. But the thing that I liked was I knew he got hit by pitches, but my God, I didn't know he got hit by that many pitches. But it was more so the big hits, particularly that Philadelphia series, which led into the series in Miami. He just got a lot of big hits, a lot of timely hits late in games. I didn't know he was clutch. Had I known that, oh, you best believe I definitely would have been like, Group Palais Conforto with this guy. At least he's clutch. He said he can get on base, and he doesn't cost $200 million. So I definitely would have been all over Mark Canha had I been, approved, given that information earlier. Had I known that. But I definitely have been impressed with what I've seen for the most part. A good WRC plus, that's all you really could ask for out of a hitter, especially at the AAV. He's getting only a 2-year deal. So he's done a lot for this team. And despite how many times he got hit, never went on the injury list. And he played so many games, especially down the stretch. He played so many games, and he's just been out there and done it. He played third base in absolute emergency. He played right field. He played a little bit of center field in emergency situations. So he did a lot for this team, despite the value on his contract.
Frank, who would you rather have on your team, Michael Conforto or Mark Canha?
Give me Mark Canha. Easy.
Okay, so just completely ignoring this because I'm done with this. Okay. Canha, when he was in Oakland, he was like the main table setter for the Olsons, the Chapmans, and even the Laureano for a second when he had that whole power surge while he was on steroids. For us, he's leading the bottom of the order, and that's what I like because he's able to be like that key guy after the top-heavy lineup, and we're able to make it a little bit deeper, and that's what I really like about Canha. No, he's a fantastic player. He really is, and that's something that I think a lot of people they didn't expect because nobody really watched Oakland that much. But no, he's a great. He's a valuable player. He really is. Is he a superstar? Absolutely not. Cusp of all-star caliber player, sure, but I mean, he just knows how to do his role. He knows how to play his role, and he plays it very well. And that's what I really like about Mark Canha. He can use all 5 tools, and that's something that I really do like about him. We saw the power come in a little bit late, but I mean, he really is someone who is able to show his value, and that's pretty much it about him. Above my expectations, I think the only one I can say is McNeil, but like I'm trying to think of anybody else that I can't really. If it were September, it'd probably be Eduardo Escobar. We're just purely September. But no, Jeff was the identity crisis of 2021, and that was something that I really was emphasizing. Of he just does not look like himself since the second half of 2019 or the first half of 2019, and it was true. He did not look like himself, and it took him a long time to get back to it. And he did get back to it, and I'm glad he did because he had one of his best, if not his greatest season he's had his entire career. And now I'm thinking about him as a future piece to this team. I mean, how the tables have turned. Am I right? Even though I'm still trading him.
Yeah, you can't put a 30-year-old in the future. The future of this team is
Alvarez. Judge is 30.
But what I don't get is how old is Nimmo?
Nimmo's 29.
He's that's
so
not.
They're a year apart, and Nimmo's got more of the injury history, and you're worried about McNeil's long term.
Aaron Judge is 30.
Yeah, but he gets RBIs. Do you not understand?
End of fat news.
131 RBIs.
30 is the immediate retirement age. It's not happening.
The greatest
30 is the immediate retirement age. Absolutely not.
I mean, yeah.
Taijuan Walker's 30. Get out.
We're not
right.
pleading for him. But I won't.
Now, away from the standout ones, we'll go to the non-standout of the most underrated Met this season. Under the radar, guys that were so key for us this year, 162 games. I'll start with Andrew. Go ahead.
There's really only one answer here. And if we're not excluding the big acquisitions, it's got to be Trevor Williams here. The fact that the way that he was utilized, spot start, mop-up role, coming in, Taijuan Walker's appendix blew. Okay, he's got to come in and pitch. Or Carrasco sucks. All right, go bring in Trevor Williams. And just to be able to save the bullpen when, you lose a starter early, to not have to use 6-7 relievers, that Trevor Williams can just go in and be like, all right, Trev can give you 5 innings and give you 6 innings if need be. And like, again, the last game of the season isn't the perfect example, but opened with and then Trev gave you 7. Like, that's what he could do, and he was doing it all year. And again, he's kind of the underrated. I know Mets fans have been banging the drum about like he's more of the most underrated free agent in the Mets. They maybe need to bring him back or try to find someone similar to him to replace him. He's just become that valuable. It sucks he's probably not on the playoff roster for the wild card series, but he's definitely, we're talking strictly regular season, he has to be one of the more underrated Mets.
He's not flashy, but he gets the job done. And that's something about him, that he's an emergency man. He's prepared for everything. Is he the greatest? No. Can that motorcycle shut the fuck up outside? Thanks. Frank, the most underrated Met this season?
David Peterson. I think that with our expectations, last year he was horrible. He was horrible. This year, I didn't know what to expect out of him. I was like, are we even going to get anything productive out of him? Is he going to be a positive player for us? And then the injuries happened, and it's like, okay, we need somebody to make starts. And David Peterson made a lot of good starts. Were they pretty? No. Were they scary? Oh, yeah. Plenty of starts, 4 walks, 5 walks, 3 walks. I get it. Wasn't fun. But when you talk about 101 wins, a good amount of those wins are from David Peterson. Good results. He was not supposed to be in our rotation, but he ended up in our rotation, and he did a really good job for the most part. He had that one start against the Cubs that was indefensible, inflated his numbers. I can't defend that. It was awful. I agree with that. But I think that we wouldn't have got to the 101 wins if it wasn't for all the spot starts that David Peterson made. And then this past couple of weeks out of the bullpen, he pitched well. He really did. When he first got to the bullpen, did not look good. But he's starting to get acclimated to it. He got those reps in. So now he's much more comfortable in that role and pitching better. So I think compared to what I was expecting out of him, which was literally nothing, I didn't think he'd really be a valuable member of this team. He did have a lot of good moments.
So on that case, I will be the new host because you've just murdered Mets fan. So if there's a Undertaker here to bring him back to life, you can give your answer if you want, or yeah.
No. Okay.
A lot of listen, 17-11 in games that David Peterson pitched. He got you W's. He got you W's. What more do you want?
Great. Here's the problem, okay? Here's the problem with this. It's not the fact of how he was this year. It's just how they're going to use him in the future. You have so many
we're not
pitchers
talking
coming
about
off
that.
of
We're
it.
talking about this year. We're just talking about the 2022 season. Down the road, listen, he's not sustainable.
Yeah, and he sucked.
I get that. But this year,
Fuck him.
with the kind of situation with the injury, he would. Results-wise, come on. You know it's true.
No,
You know it.
absolutely not. I know a lot of results known as walks, and he does that all the fucking
but
time.
do the walks cross home plate? No, and becomes a W.
They always do.
Not always.
They always do.
No, that's false. No, not true.
Absolutely.
Not true.
Walks will always come.
Because, but
cross
what
home
about the
plate.
game where against the Dodgers where he had 4 walks but only 1 run? How do you do that?
Yeah, because they took him out early.
Yeah, but he would still get earned
They
run.
took him out early, and then he has a temper tantrum like fucking Taiwan Walker mixed with Jeff McNeil.
Because he's a
and goes-
competitor. He wants to get out of it.
Absolutely.
What about the
He
start?
knows he
What about the starting Phillies? We had 2 walks and no runs. How about that?
What do you mean?
What do I mean?
What do you mean 2 walks and no runs?
He walked 2 batters, but neither one of them scored.
I can't think of one.
It was a game against the Phillies. April
Okay.
11th.
Okay, you're picking the day before my birthday when, you know, it was still 40 degrees outside. Okay,
April
Philadelphia.
11th?
Yeah, games in April.
That's
and
what you're
in
defending?
September. Yeah.
You're defending April 11th.
This is how we
April
got
11th.
to 101.
How did the offense do in that game?
Not good. Not his fault. He did what he could.
Okay.
Just get to the next. Just get to the next category. The David Peterson. We
Here's your
made like
problem.
9 videos of David Peterson.
But here's the problem, okay? Here's your problem. Starters can't walk people.
Okay.
Done.
But he got the
Point
job
blank
done.
period. Walks aren't good.
Just get next category. Just
I didn't
hopefully the next quarter doesn't have anything to do with David Peterson.
Most-
What's next?
Most underrated Met. Or above my expectation? I don't know. I don't know
Just
if I
do underrated.
answered it.
Just too underrated.
Underrated Mets. I mean, Trevor Williams a good one. David Peterson is dog shit. I'd say they're all overrated, to be honest. I mean, I guess I would just tag along with Trevor Williams because like he's just been the piece that we've need. He's the guy. He's the guy that we wouldn't be in this place without. Not this fucking lanky lefty
you
motherfucker.
need both of them. You need both.
I'm sorry. We have expectations for David Peterson because he was a first-round pick.
Yeah, but based on what he did last year, you had
The entire team is over it. Exactly. I don't know if that's a Braves fan or not, but yeah. I mean, if he had the end of the season, if he had an end of the season that was good, Adonis Medina you could put in there, but he's gone. I guess I'll say I guess I'll say Daniel Vogelbach.
Why'd you pick your lover, Luis Guillorme? How come you didn't pick him?
No. I'd say, Daniel Vogelbach, because he's been pretty much written off at this point of being terrible, even though he has been good as his entire time as a Met. But hey, it's just another one of those I get on base Conforto guys I got to defend. I'd say underrated is Conforto still. I'll say Conforto. That's it. Because of how overlooked he was. They could have won this division with him, but instead,
while he's
sitting at home in a bar fight.
Absolutely.
Enough.
Yes.
He does Tyler Naquin's job pretty well. Just take 3 strikes right down the middle. They both do the same thing. So next, or we going to the playoffs? We got anyone?
Would you rather have Tyler Naquin just swing it every
day?
At
least the occasional homer and good defense from Naquin. Conforto strikes out a lot too. All right, next, enough. We're not having this.
He has never had a single year with an above average. Forget it.
Okay, move on. God. Video for the offseason. Troll video on my channel coming
Most overrated Met. Andrew, go ahead.
Are we just talking overrated from the fan base, or are we just talking overrated by the play
this season? Someone who's everyone's saying was amazing, and they were just okay, or someone, I don't know, just most overrated player coming out of this season, maybe going to the next season.
Again, it's pretty tough because most of these guys had bad years. I'm going, obviously, Luis Guillorme here. This dude is ass. I don't care. He's good defense. I don't care. He gets a bajillion ground balls, and when he doesn't and he strikes out the other 50%. The dude's ass. Unless it's against Darren O'Day. For some reason, he's just Darren O'Day's dad, where he's just 2 homers, 2 ABs, just hitting all the nukes off him. But again, he's great defensively. There's nothing wrong with that. The dude does not give you anything offensively. I don't care if he gives you a good AB. A good AB that says it's a 4-3 and a scorecard. I don't care. He's an elite defense. If he's just coming in and being a defensive replacement and never swinging the bat, all for. But he has to swing the bat. It seems like 4 to 5 games a week. No, enough. Great defensively. He's probably going to win that utility Gold Glove. I don't want to see this guy swing a bat ever again. He can catch a bat. He's good at catching bats. But that's really about it because he ain't giving you anything offensive.
You don't care about quality ABs?
No. Not when it's from Luis Guillorme. He can just jump off the bridge.
Swinging. He just gets hit by
pitch.
You don't need. What do you mean he gets hit by pitch? He's gotten hit 3 times this year. What?
Because he's always ducking.
He should do that more often. Stick your head out the window. As you say, stick his head over the window.
You don't care about quality ABs. Okay.
We have enough quality ABs.
We have enough of those. We need some power. Enough.
What did Eric Chavez full on enforce this year?
Yeah, and we need to fire him because he's annoying too. I'm just sick and tired of these little singles hitters, and then the Braves just bomb the hell out of us and lose. So. Yeah, I need 105. I need the Dodgers.
Quality ABs got you your quality wins that got you 101 wins. So that means that all of the 101 wins go to Luis Guillorme.
It wasn't enough. It just fills the point. He's second best.
Frank, the most overrated Met this season.
Oh, God. I had him and then I lost him because we got talking about ground balls and then it got me aggravated. So I know who else. I got it now. Dom Smith. There's no, Andrew, listen. There are actually people who still want Dom Smith to be called up. And they're like, oh, where's Dom Smith? Why are we not calling up Dom Smith? It's like, did you not watch the guy the past couple of years? He's terrible. He can't hit the ball over the fence in a major league game. And we gave him the excuse, it was the shoulder. He couldn't swing with 2 hands, 1 hand, however many hands it was. And then he gets the shoulder surgery done, goes off against Max Scherzer in an exhibition game, hits 2 home runs. But then when it comes to regular season, couldn't hit anything. 3 major league assets they were going to give you for Dominic Smith began the season. Said he didn't want to be here. You could have turned those assets into Trevor Rogers. You could have turned those assets into Josh Hader, who ended up stinking. But still, I'd rather have Josh Hader than Dom Smith. I don't care. I'd still rather have Josh Hader than Dominic Smith. And they said, no, we're going to keep Dom Smith instead of getting those guys. And Dom said he didn't want to be here. He wanted to start every day. So they gave him yet another year of opportunities. He struggled, was terrible. And even despite that, some fans still want him to be called back up. Why do you think they haven't done it? He's not good. And why do you think they got rid of JD at the deadline? Don't you think they would have got rid of Dom as well? Nobody wanted him. He stinks. So I can't believe that people legitimately were like, you know what, this offense struggling. What we need to do is call up Dom Smith. It's like, what? Where is he going to play? What's he going to do? He's just not good. He's a waste of a roster spot. He has no defensive value. He's not playing first. Pete Alonso's there. He's slow. He just doesn't do anything particularly well. He does nothing good. He has no redeeming qualities. He's a nice guy. I got nothing wrong with his person. He's a great guy. I like him as a person. But as a player, no thank you. Yeah, the fact that people still want to call him up was just crazy to me. No. That's why they didn't do it. I mean, they called up all these other bums before they called him up. So that should tell you all you really need to know.
The fact that Frank has brought up Dom Smith and David Peterson in back-to-back segments, I think that's a sign. Just how?
Andrew, he was a first-round pick. He was a first-round pick. Come on.
I mean, first-round picks are supposed to play like first-round picks, and he didn't play like first-round pick for the last 2 seasons. So eat shit. I originally had Taijuan Walker, but I'm done talking about him. But since there was a previous answer that we talked about, the most underrated, he goes in the overrated category. David Peterson, I'm done with this. I'm done. The amount of tweets, the amount of shit of people annoying the living crap out of me, the last 8.2 innings, he didn't walk anyone, and that means he's going to do it forever. And do you really feel comfortable with this guy in your rotation next year? Do you really feel comfortable with the amount of starts that this guy has made, with the amount of panic attacks he has caused for me and all these other Mets fans where he can't get the fucking ball over the plate? I'm so tired of people treating this guy like a middle of the rotation, Chris Bassett type of level guy, or even a number 2 because he's a first overall pick. I'm so tired of this crap. Josh Walker should have gotten a chance over this guy. I'm so tired of seeing this guy. He needs to go. I apologize for calling him a reliever. I really do. He's just not that good. He's not good at anything. Okay? It's enough already. He doesn't belong here. Get rid of him. Everybody that walks people, get him out of here. Done. Piece of shit. All right.
I mean, his last 3 bullpen outings, he's given up 0 runs and only walked
Eat
1 batter.
shit. I don't care.
Good ERA.
The last 4 starts and, the last 3. Do it an entire season. How about that? Where your walk rate's under 10%, under 9%. How about that? Do that. I don't need to hear the fucking sample size of, the last 2 outings,
throw cookies and give up home runs.
The next 2 outings, he was bad. But the last 2 outings, he was good. And then he was good the next 2 outings. And then the next 4 outings, he was really good. And then the next one, we don't really like that. His confidence. The confidence. This guy was a number 1. This guy was a first-round pick. I'm sorry. He has not met any fucking expectations at all. God, enough. Glad to let that out after 162 games. The MVP of the Mets. Who was the MVP? The big bopper. The biggest of them all. Andrew, go ahead. Who's your MVP of the Mets? I'm underage. I apologize, Christopher.
Yeah, me and the dinosaur we'll take that free bev. The dinosaur, nice. The MVP, the best hitter, is first base James McCann. MVP is first base James McCann. This guy is an absolute legend. Think of these numbers. He has played first base 3 games in his career as a New York Met. He has 3 home runs. He's hitting like 675, and the defense hasn't been that bad. He's actually made a couple of diving plays. He's making the routine play. He hasn't made a Pete Alonso where he's just chucking the ball. If there's a challengeable ground ball right at him, he can probably get thrown out because he's got the McCann. So for me, it's got 1 great batting average, good slugging percentage. That's the best version of James McCann we've gotten ever. Is when that man does not have the catcher's gear on. He's got the first base glove, and he's just being him and just being better than Pete Alonso, being better than Mike Trout at this point. This guy's just a different hitter when he's at first base, and I don't understand it. I love it. The memes are great. The legend of first base James McCann is just top tier. Frank, who is your MVP of this season?
I think as the season went on, it became more and more obvious that the MVP of the Mets was Starling Marte. I think the reason why Starling Marte was the MVP is his particular skill set and how it relates to the other hitters in the lineup. We talked about, our complaint about Guillorme is that we have so many guys who have the Luis Guillorme approach of we're going to take a lot of pitches, we're going to draw walks. Starling Marte is not here to draw walks. Starling Marte is here to get hits. He's a guy that he's aggressive, maybe sometimes a little too aggressive. You see him swing at some stuff like, I wish he didn't swing at that one. But more times than not, he still is putting bat to ball, still putting the ball in play. And then what I like about Marte is that every now and then he would steal a base, go first to third, steal home. Like, he just did a lot of things that the rest of these guys cannot, will not, should not do. So he's just different than so many of the other players in this lineup. And you saw that once he was gone, a lot of these other guys couldn't get the job done. He's quite a bit better against left-handed pitchers than most of these guys in this lineup. And we saw it be so glaring in the later part of the season once Marte got hurt, and these teams were purposely stacking lefties against the Mets, and these guys weren't really able to exploit it. But Marte did such a good job of that. And nowadays in the new age, they say your best hitter should hit number 2. The Mets' number 2 hitter for the majority of the season was Starling Marte. So that tells you that they value him as maybe their best hitter. You know what? And what I liked about Marte was he never had like a crazy hot streak, and he never had a crazy cold streak. It seemed like he stayed 290 to 300 the whole year. He was always just giving you something every day. And if it wasn't hitting, he made a good catch in the outfield. He made a strong throw to a base. Like, he just did so many different things to help this team win ball games. And that's why I thought he was MVP, because once he got hurt, you can see there's just a drastic difference in this lineup, especially with our backup outfielders. The drop-off from Marte to Tyler Naquin is massive. Absolutely massive. Tyler Naquin's got unplayable at this point, and we're dying for Starling Marte to be back. So that's why, to me, I believe he's the MVP of this team.
Starling Marte, ground ball rate under 50 this year, so it's a success. It's over. Yeah, settled. You can give him the MVP, but the real MVP is Edwin Diaz. And there's just no reason why you can't say that, because the Mets past the 8th inning, what was it? They're like, what? No, past the 8th. Yeah, something like that. This guy
when they're leading.
They're leading past the 8th inning, whatever.
Yeah, they're like 80-0 or something.
Most of that comes from Edwin Diaz. We've had a lot of one-run games that we were on the short end of last year. We have been a lot of one-run games this year that we've been on the good end of them. Edwin Diaz is locking it down. Not to mention, in the free agent year, I'm extremely scared to see what he gets in free agency. I'd love to bring him back and for him to be our main guy in the bullpen and build a new bullpen around him. But that's a different story for later. But I mean, I talk about last few years, top 3 reliever. Well, he's been the best. I'm sorry. He's been the best in all of baseball, striking out more than half of the batters that he's faced. The tightest slider, the biggest razor blade slider, elite, more than elite. He's gone above and beyond this year. And I mean, this was the guy you traded for back in 2019. And it took him a little bit while to get there, but this is the best he's ever been in his career. Is it maybe some kind of a coincidence that it is a contract year? Could be possible, especially with reliever market and relievers being so finicky and everything. But it's very tempting not to bring this guy back. It really is, because this is a special type of talent that we're seeing displayed in the 9th inning. Well, either we have a lead or we're behind or it's tied. He's come into every situation. Remember when Tony was pissed off of how there's so many possibilities of how this guy can be good? That's gone out the window this year. The man's just hit another level. And he's just been the reason why they're winning so many games. He's been the top reason, in my opinion. He's been their best player, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. But overall, 162 games, fully healthy, I think Edwin Diaz has been our best player. But that's just a different story. I value pitching more than the fat nukes. But other than that, Edwin Diaz, the top guy. Anybody else that we want to shout out as a possible MVP? Because we've had a lot of great performances.
Yeah, the obvious ones are Lindor and Alonso because they're actually going to – one of them may be a finalist or at least top 5 in the actual National League MVP ballot. So they're pretty obvious. But I think that, again, like we talked about, when it's 101, there's a lot of guys that are the reason for that. And I think besides the obvious of Lindor and Alonso, the guys that we mentioned, Andrew had McCann, but – Diaz, Marte, those guys like that are the real reason why. But the only reason was tough with Diaz is while the Mets were struggling in September, there was nothing Diaz could really do because they were already behind. And like when the offense was struggling, he couldn't go up there and hit himself. You know what I mean? So he did have a lot of massive moments, like when the Mets were leading, coming in the 8th inning or 7th inning, the multi-inning saves, things like that, and doing it via the strikeout. So if there were runners on base, keeping them there. So he had like so many amazing moments, but it's just that there were just times where it's like the reliever, they can only have so much value, whereas a guy like Marte or, Alonso, and they're involved in so many more areas. 100, like think about Francisco Lindor, played 161 games. Yeah. Like he was some type of impact, good or bad, in every single game. So that's the reason why it's always tough for the reliever.
And the thing about Lindor, he was one door jam away
from 160,
possibly from having an MVP caliber season fully and playing 162 games. We remember when he got hurt and his production went down. The dude could barely grip the fucking bat. What's your excuse, Marte, you pussy? But other than that, I mean, no, the thing about Diaz is just you're seeing a season that you've never seen. You really just are seeing something you've never seen. He finished the year, and I think he probably could have got the record if he was used more in September. But the second highest strikeout rate by a reliever in a single season, behind Aroldis Chapman in 2017, 2014, something like that. Apple TV for the playoffs. I'd rather stab myself with a fork. Other than that, no, that's it. Moving on to the postseason. We'll make a prediction and then we'll talk about the rotation and then we'll head our way out. And don't forget tomorrow there's going to be a pregame with me and Andrew. We'll see if we can drag Frank by his feet to come join us, but we'll see.
By my walking cane.
By the walking cane. Tell him to go fetch his false teeth to his chair and waiting for the broadcast. I mean, sure.
Well, they already said that ESPN is doing at least one of the games. I don't know if it's all of them. I know. And then CBS has the American League. So
the mute button is a fantastic thing, isn't it?
I'm gonna have to, especially if there's a foul ball that just barely goes foul. They're gonna talk about the rest of the night. And then they're going to give me commercials about storing my potatoes and about checking my glucose and my feet massagers.
I mean, that's great for you. You're the target market.
It was. They were all going.
I know that
elder statesmen like myself could use, but
I know that every entry graphic. I know that every entry graphic from from a commercial tomorrow, or if it's on ESPN. Did you know the Braves went 71-30? Like, shut up. Oh my God. Like, we get it. My dad was seeing me like steam during that Braves series. We were talking, I was like, oh my God, shut up. Like every single time. I get they were playing the Braves, but like Mets, Padres, don't even bring up the Braves. They will though. We've never seen a 100-win team not win their division.
Yeah, literally happened with the Dodgers last year.
just let Gary, Keith, and Ron do all the playoffs. Like that's it. Or at least the Mets playoffs. You know what I mean? They allow Howie Rose to do the radio. They allow John Sterling to do the radio for the Yankees. Just let us have them. You can do whatever you want for the World Series, the Championship Series. Just like let us have the best announcers in baseball.
Yeah, it's like I wish they could do both, but the thing is, they know nobody would watch them. That's the thing. Like if they had both, we would all just pick
Mets fans would.
over the ESPN.
Mets fans would.
Yeah,
but it would be nice if maybe he can Cohen buys SNY and connects SNY to how like we have it with picks. Connects it to one of the main, we'll see. I don't know. But that's a whole other story. But there's other things to do when buying SNY, that meaning firing most of their media staff. But let's get to the actual postseason. Let's make a prediction of who's going to be the top performer in the postseason. 2015 was Daniel Murphy overall. 2016, I guess you can say it, if you want to even count it as a playoff appearance, Noah Syndergaard. Back in 2006, anybody but Carlos Beltran, fucking choker. Your top performer, Frank, who do you got? Who do you think is going to be the top dog? The person that you're like, okay, this is my guarantee for World Series MVP if they get there.
Max Scherzer.
Okay, that was my pick.
Yeah, because he's the only guy that really has that recent experience of showing up in the big games and being the deciding factor in winning an actual World Series, like actually having a ring. Scherzer's the only guy on the team who actually has a ring, if I'm not mistaken. So, Terrence Gore has one. Oh my God,
Jared Gore got one.
Terrence Gore got it. But a guy who actually was a meaningful contributor for the championship, Max Scherzer. And you know what? As much as we're paying him, that's what we're paying him for. Is literally for this. It's to show up in these big postseason games, be better than the team you're facing, having that advantage. That is what we're paying him for. So I expect him to be our MVP.
All right. Who do you got?
Well, if last year and most postseasons showed, it's never your stars are the people that show up in the playoffs. A la Jorge Soler and Eddie Rosario winning NLCS and World Series MVP. So it ain't going to be Lindor. It ain't going to be DeGrom. It ain't going to be Scherzer. It ain't going to be Alonso. It ain't going to be McNeil. It's going to be that tier 2 dog shit player who just turns it off in the most unlikely Daniel Murphy run. It is going to be James McCann because he's hitting the game-winning home run tomorrow because he's got 2 homers off Yu Darvish for his career. And he's homering again, second straight game, by the way, hitting a fat nuke, to put them on the lead. And then once they get to L.A., he's going to play first base because guess what? We need a DH against left-handed pitchers. Move P to DH, put James at first base, and you will get the greatest Daniel Murphy-esque run from James McCann you will ever see. This man's going to make an apology video because he's hitting. There's already a bet when he wins World Series MVP.
I'll make sure of that bet.
That bet has to get out. Yeah,
we were doing it full on dark side last night, so I revised it a little bit, but I'll
4 times. But
okay,
yes.
Here's what the deal is: if James McCann gets a winning, deciding hit in any playoff game, I will, to start off a stream or end a stream, list off 50 things nice to say about James McCann. 50 things, okay? You know why? Because I know it's not going to fucking happen. Top performer, I had Max Scherzer. Sneaky pick, obviously Francisco Lindor with postseason experience. But you know what? With all the numbers that Darren Ruff has against all these pitchers, it's going to be Darren Ruff, the best postseason player you will ever see in your lifetime. He's played so many of these West teams that are going, the Dodgers too. He's done well.
Great numbers off Dodgers. Kershaw. Yeah. Kills
He's got
lefties.
homers off Kershaw. He's got homers off of Yu Darvish, right? Even James McCann has one.
Blake Snell. He owns Blake Snell. He's pitching game 2.
He owns Blake Snell. He owns all these lefties, right? Lefty killer. Okay? He's going to show you why he should be there over Francisco Alvarez. And why it was worth giving 4 assets away for this washed up loser who plays like he's on dialysis on the field. So that's what's going to be. Darren Ruff for World Series MVP. But if I were to pick one for serious, if he plays, Marte. Because I think he's built for those big moments. Does he have the best postseason track record? No, but it's not the biggest sample, so I'm not going to go crazy with it. But I think Marte's made for that type of moment of high leverage, and that's something that I think he'll come through with if he plays. And again, maybe he'll be like, okay, well, I haven't played in a while. I'm ready to go. Speaking of Marte, Billy Epler said that he can grip things. That's the update. Thank you, Billy.
He's really
Anybody else that we want to put out there, and then we'll talk about the rotation, and we'll send it off.
I mean, I could. I mean, with the way Canada got hot in some of those games, like you could see him getting like a sneaky big hit. I mean, even Escobar, like he's had big hits late in games, like a few times this season. So you never know. I mean, it just seems like with this team, anything is really possible. It'd be pretty cool if Vogelback had some big moments. I think that'd be a lot of fun, like because the crowd's so into him. That'd be pretty cool. But again, the playoffs is like Andrew said, it's always the unexpected guy. So we'll see.
And me and Frank are totally not wanting us like a Nimmo going off or like a good guy who's good in MLB to show to get a godly card. We're totally not hoping that this team goes to the World Series and gets like 7 cards.
Good Nimmo.
Okay.
We already got a 99 Escobar, so we're just waiting on Nimmo now.
Up. Okay. Last guy I would like to shout out is Chris Bassett, just because he's just. It's like you're how like the I don't know if it was with the Red Sox with who's that one pitcher who's not their top line? Was it Pivetta or was it
Evaldi?
Evaldi, yeah.
Okay.
Beast.
So that type of role of he loves to throw and he'll push you through 7 or 8, and that's something that I think he can do. And I think
I think the good capacity like Patrick Corbin was like he was the 3rd starter in that National Series, but he came out of the bullpen for some of the games and things like that. I could see
washed afterwards.
Yeah, he can't watch afterwards. But for that run, Corbin was really important part for why the Nationals won. Yeah, because there's so Scherzer, Strasburg, but it was really that 3rd guy that really was the X factor. So I think Bass had that kind of role.
So tomorrow, Max Scherzer will be starting Game 1 against Yu Darvish. And then I think the Padres announced their 2 guys, Blake Snell for number 2, because he's number 2. And Joe Musgrove for number 3, if needed. Now, the whole deal is about Jacob deGrom, and it seems like if they win tomorrow, they're going to put Bassett on the mound. If they don't, they're going to put Jake on the mound as worst case scenario in Game 2. Now, that would mean that if best case scenario, Max and Chris win those first 2 games, you have deGrom for Game 1 against the Dodgers. But if not, there's a sticky situation here because they screwed themselves and put them in the wild card game, didn't win one fucking game to win that division. So you might be burning starters. And there's not many breaks. So how should they handle this entire scenario in every single combination? I'll start with Frank because he's the more critical thinker out of all of us, and he overthinks a lot of things. Go ahead.
I do overthink. I tweeted it out, but I think deGrom needs to start the second game no matter what, whether the Mets win or lose. I just don't think that when it comes to the playoffs, you can't play for or prepare for later. You have to win now because you don't know what's going to happen for long. Maybe you play really well. Maybe you play like crap and it didn't matter, but you got to at least get there first and then see what happens. Because I tweeted out, but Buck Showalter with the Baltimore Orioles, and they had that tied game, the playoff game. Zach Britton was having an amazing year. And Buck said, no, I'm going to save Britton for when we have the lead. I'm going to save him. I'm going to wait. And he waited too long, and the game was over, and the Orioles were eliminated. Could you imagine if in a walk year for deGrom, in a elimination game, in a playoff series, he isn't used? Like, or is used not to his best capability or something like that? Not used the way he should be. that was put so much stock into this guy. Like, he needs to be a main contributor for you. So I don't think now's the time for being cute. You know what? You blew your chance to be cute by losing the division. So even though we have faith in Chris, he's not DeGrom. He's not getting paid like DeGrom is going to get paid next offseason. When we have the decision, are we signing Bass or are we signing DeGrom? Are we signing both? I'm thinking Bass is getting somewhere in that $20 million range, and DeGrom is going to be asking for $50 million. So DeGrom is going to be asked to be double the pitcher that Chris Bassett is. So he needs to have that expectation of you're double the pitcher Chris Bassett is. So I need him to step up because I can't deal with the blisters excuses. I can't deal with all the other crap that we've heard. It's time to step up. It's time to get it done. Because if you want to leave us and go somewhere else, you got to show us that we'd be making the biggest mistakes in the franchise history of not keeping you. So I need DeGrom to be pitch. I don't care if it's 1, 2, whatever. He needs to pitch. They just got to win this series. Don't let it get to that do or die game. Because think about it. If you could just win tomorrow and win Saturday, you're done. You have nothing to stress about on Sunday. But if you win one and then you lose one and now you're like, oh my God, so this elimination game, it's not worth that risk. So I think no matter what, win or loss, DeGrom has to pitch the second game.
If DeGrom gets, I would say that like DeGrom gets game 3 of a deciding game, but then also you talk about how that adds an extra day that he would be burned for the next series. And then what I'm seeing here for the last, 24, 36 hours of this whole thing about Scherzer and DeGrom and Bassett of how they're going to set out the starting pitchers in the wild card series because of the situation they're in. What I'm seeing is, and this is getting me really scared, it seems like Buck's kind of overlooking the Padres and saying, well, we'll set this up and we'll have this set up for the Dodgers. And that was something that I really saw Mickey Callaway do a lot, where he's like, I'm trying to be too many steps in front, and then I end up too many steps behind. So that was it's a little concerning how they are approaching this. And I'm not going to say right now that I don't trust Chris Bassett as much as as people should trust him. But in the situation, there's a best of 5 series, right? I'm not giving, I don't know how I feel with the extra rest or short rest for DeGrom. I think it's every 5 days it has to happen. You also go back to the whole situation in Atlanta, where they purposely lined him up to play Atlanta in game 1, like a playoff series. Also knowing that he had this blood blister situation. I don't know if if DeGrom didn't say anything, or they knew about it and just start him up for game 1. But what I'm seeing here is what the fuck's going on here? I don't know what the mindset is. And I feel like that is going to cost them. And that's kind of just more of thinking of if they advance to the National League Division Series. I just feel like a lot of the approach from Buck seems like, okay, well, it's only the Padres. We won 2 out of 3 in a lot of series this year. We can do it. But I don't know. It's not a win or go home game. If this was win or go home, DeGrom was game 1. And you'd have Scherzer piggyback it maybe after 4 innings, whatever that is. Because you go all in. But I don't know. It's a double negative, in my opinion. You screwed yourself in this situation, not winning the division. And then also, you have an extra day. You don't have that 1-game playoff anymore. So an extra day, you have to burn an arm, whether it's necessary or not, when you need a win or not.
And so I was just going to say, and if he's so important pitching in the Dodgers series, you might as well just start him the first game, because then he could start the Dodgers series a little earlier compared to pitching him the third game. Let's just say that happens. Yeah. So, if the whole point is the Dodgers, that's all you care about is the Dodgers, start him in game 1. Yeah. And I think that's what the nervous deal is right now, is the fact that they're just scared that they're not going to have someone available for the next round. Well, worry about this round right now. How about that? Do that right now. Okay.
if you lose 2 games, you're done. It's over. You're not going to be playing anything. So that's not going to mean anything. So I would decide DeGrom when you're facing elimination. I'd put him in there because obviously there's nothing you can do knowing that Max Scherzer is going to start game 1. But like how they're looking at it of just like, they're just looking past the Padres. We're like, the Padres are a good team. They're a good team. They're in the playoffs for a reason. They have a lot of talent, you know? It's not like, you know, we've seen them underperform before, but like they're in the playoffs. You know, they're a good team. You can't just look past teams in the playoffs. And that's the impression I've been getting for the last 36 hours with Buck Showalter and the front office, whoever's deciding this whole shit with the starting pitchers or whatever. I don't know. And I'm really hoping that we don't also have a starting lineup that looks like it's one of those half-ass as well, because we don't know what the official lineup's going to be. And we still won't know until the last second because we don't know if Starling Marte is going to be here. So we'll see. I don't know. But Andrew, anything with this situation of DeGrom and anything we haven't said already? Because I'd say this was an overthinking point here. But the way these reports have been coming out, it's just been kind of odd.
You both are just sounding like you guys like that conspiracy wolf. Jake's gonna pitch in this series. When Jake needs to pitch, Jake's gonna go. I'm okay with Max going 1. I was fine. I thought Jake should have went game 1. But once Max went game 1, I'm like, all right, Jake's set up for when can they close the series? If they can close the series in game, I would just go 1-2, Twin Towers, bang, yeah. But that sounded wrong. Please don't.
Dude,
that was unintentional. That did not. That came out worse than I thought. Yes. Would it be best just put Max, Jake, boom, done? Yeah. But then let's say you do that. Max wins game 1. You go to Jake game 2. Jake loses game 2. Now you've got Bassett for game 3. So you could spin this any way you want to do it. If they go Max, it's all going to matter tomorrow. You win tomorrow, then you can set your way. You know, do you want it? You're still going to have Jake pitch in an elimination game if they lose game 2 or not. And if Bassett goes out and shoves, then boom, you save Jake for LA. If Bassett sucks, boom, you got Jake in game 3. So Jake will pitch in the elimination game, either if it's game 2 to keep the season alive, or if it's game 3 to get us to the Dodgers. Jake's pitching. So I don't really care if it's game 2, if it's game 3. I kind of like having the, win game 1. This is, win game 1, then let's say, hey, you can go Bassett in game 2. If Bassett lucks his way out and not have to burn Jake, you don't have to burn Jake. But Jake's going game 3. So for me, I don't really care who pitches in what order, especially with Max going game 1. I don't care who goes game 2, game 3. I don't really care. I'm confident in any of the 3 pitching, so it shouldn't. This isn't like we got Zach Davies pitching and David Peterson. These are quality guys. Whoever is going out there is going to give you a chance to win the game, and especially when you got two Cy Young Award winners multiple times in this series. I don't really care how they figure it out. Could they be looking over San Diego? Yeah. Does San Diego choke a lot? Yeah. Do they have a lot of talent? Yeah. Could they sweep us? Yeah. I'm probably predicting they're going to probably beat us because the Mets are the Mets. The Mets are going to Met. But yeah, I don't really care. Once Max was game 1, I had the feeling if they win game 1, they're going to go with Bassett in game 2 to save Jake for LA because that's what they want to get to the NLDS. So I don't really care if they lose game 1, then you see Jake in game 2. They win game 1, you're going to see Jake in game 3, or you see him in game 1 of the NLDS. For me, it's not that big a deal. Yes, should you just have that killer instinct and just throw the big 2 right away? Yeah. But it's also not the most strategic way because let's say, again, we're talking like Chris Bassett is, again, like it's Zach Davies. Chris Bassett can go out and shove. Yes, his 2 starts in the Padres were not good this year, which were those like the big lowlights of Bassett's season this year, or against San Diego, which nobody's talking about. I haven't seen anybody say that. But again, Bassett's not a bad pitcher. Like we're not throwing a David Peterson. Like you should have faith in Bassett going into this, whoever pitching whenever. So for me, I don't really care. Win game 1, then if that's just the biggest thing. If you win game 1, I don't really care who goes game 2 because Jake's gonna pitch a game 2.
With all the stress, you should have just won the division.
That too.
That would have been nice. But we'll just never know. And that's it. Season's over.
Season 2 of What If. There you go. There's your What If episode.
Tomorrow, pregame with this Rhino dude, who almost just got canceled a second ago. Pre-game
Wasn't the first.
and post-game, hour before tomorrow's game. Yeah, all those festivities. We're going to go in hard. A lot of stuff that we're going to talk about.
There's your clip from Mets fan this week.
Oh, who cares? Innuendos, who cares? But other than that, closing remarks. Tomorrow is playoff baseball at Citi Field for the first time since 2016. Let's hope that it lasts longer than that. Yeah, that's it. Frank, last things that you want to say for this team, words of encouragement.
No Darren Ruff, and don't let me down.
Oh, he's asking for a lot.
Mhm.
Andrew.
Do what I do in big games. It's just another game. Just play the music, get the boys loosen up, get the podcast going, listen to some crappy music just to get the guys light. Just play baseball. It's what you're doing. Like, this is no different. It's just a different month. You got some more layers. You got more layers. You got another logo on the hat than you did a week ago. It's just baseball. You're getting paid to play a game. Treat it as that.
Would have won this division if we had Michael Conforto. But that's it. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a pregame. Hopefully Frank can join us, but it's a doubt. He doesn't really like us. But yeah, other than that, links in the description following all of us individually. TonyMetro, who could not make it tonight, his links are in the description as well. Tons of stuff coming up for the postseason and the off season. Tons of crazy stuff. Can't really reveal much of it because it's all kind of up in the air right now, but we'll get there. We don't know. But other than that, go Mets, playing the Padres, Max Scherzer on the mound at Citi Field. Meaningful baseball in October, folks. It's finally here. LFGM. We'll see you guys next time.